momentum. So, over here on SI, second-year Dallas Wings guard Paige Bueckers remains optimistic that there will be a WNBA season this fall despite ongoing conflicts with the CBA centered around the league's position against players. Bueckers told Elle magazine that there's no reason to be discouraged until the final call is made, re-emphasizing her belief that a resolution is going to be reached sooner than later.
March 10th. That's the drop-dead date Adam Silver and the NBA owners have given the WNBA Players Association to sign a new collective bargaining agreement. And right now, with just weeks to go, nobody knows if there will even be a season in 2025. But one player is breaking ranks with the doom and gloom narrative, and what she's saying reveals just how fractured the players' union really is right now.
In his first season as a coach. Quote, I'm looking forward to continuing to build. We have a foundation, we have a core, and we have a new coaching staff, so it's going to be really exciting just to see what it'll be like under the wings and how they can continue to grow and get better as a team. Well, you have no idea what your team's going to look like yet. Nobody does. There's too many players.
That's Dallas Wings guard Paige Bueckers talking to Elle magazine, and she's one of the few WNBA players publicly expressing optimism about getting a deal done. But here's what makes her comments so significant. She's not just saying empty platitudes about hoping for the best. She's identifying the exact reason why both sides have to find a way to make this work. Momentum. After 30 years of struggling for relevance, the WNBA finally broke through in 2024. Record ratings, sold-out arenas, unprecedented media coverage. And Bueckers understands that walking away from the table right now would be catastrophic. But she's not speaking for everyone. Not even close.
The season is going to happen. I don't know. I mean, it shows you how fractured these players are, because you get several players that come out and act like they're optimistic. There's going to be a season. They're going to work it out. And then you get somebody like Natasha Cloud come along and you're like, well, if you continue with that same mindset, no, there won't be a season to go, to have, because you've got to be able to compromise in order to get a deal done. Remember, they're not going to take less than blah, 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 blah. Well, you may have to if you want to play basketball and you want to get to the next CBA.
There it is. The fundamental problem facing these negotiations. The players aren't unified. You've got Paige Bueckers saying, we'll figure it out, we have to capitalize on momentum. Then you've got Natasha Cloud and others drawing hard lines in the sand, saying they won't take less than their demands no matter what. Quote, they're not going to take less than blah, 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 blah. That's not a negotiating position. That's an ultimatum. And ultimatums don't lead to deals. They lead to lockouts. Think about what has to happen if they actually sign a CBA on March 9th or 10th. It's not like everyone goes back to work the next day. There's a 2 to 3 week process just to start conducting actual business. The expansion draft for the Golden State Valkyries has to happen. Free agency has to open. Teams need to finalize rosters. The WNBA draft is scheduled for April. All of that machinery requires time to operate, and every day closer to March 10th without a deal makes the timeline more compressed and chaotic.
Badly, actually. Right here, let's see. They want to keep growing together as a team. This includes growing closer to Jose Fernandez. Quote, we met a couple of times, just got dinner, chopped it up, and I think he has a good plan for the team. We're so excited about that, and we'll see how this free agency stuff goes. We'll see how the expansion draft goes, and then we have the number 1 pick, so we'll see how that WNBA draft goes. I'm really excited for the future. We got a lot of people who love basketball and really passionate about it. I want to continue to get better, so it's all exciting.
But let's talk about what's really at stake here, because it goes way beyond just missing one season. The WNBA spent 3 decades building toward 2024, 3 decades of playing in half-empty arenas, of games being broadcast on obscure cable channels at 2 p.m. on weekdays, of players having to go overseas every winter just to make a living wage. They finally broke through to mainstream consciousness. Caitlin Clark's rookie season drove massive ratings increases. Angel Reese brought a whole new demographic of fans. The playoffs were must-watch television for the first time in league history. And now they're gambling all of that momentum on a labor negotiation. If there's no season in 2025, casual fans disappear. They're not going to wait around for 2026. They'll move on to the next thing. Sponsors who finally started taking the WNBA seriously will redirect those marketing budgets elsewhere. Media partners will fill that programming time with other content. The window of opportunity that took 30 years to open will slam shut, possibly for good. Paige Bueckers gets this. You can hear it in how she talks about the situation. She's not naive about the challenges, but she understands the stakes are too high for both sides to walk away. The owners have finally seen what the WNBA can be when it captures public attention. They're not going to let that revenue potential evaporate over a negotiation. And the players, despite the tough talk from some, know their leverage only exists because of that 2024 breakthrough. Without momentum, they're back to being a subsidized league that loses money. And that's not a strong bargaining position.
Will there be a lockout? Will there be a strike? Nobody knows. My gut feeling is they get a deal done at the 11th hour, the day of the drop dead date, or the right before the drop dead date. And because all these things tend to go to the very last moment. Now, I saw earlier, I was reading a breakdown of the speed in which everything's going to happen once they sign a contract, because they will sign, if they sign on the 10th or on the 9th, it'll essentially still take 2 to 3 weeks to start doing actual business.
Listen to how Bueckers talks about the Dallas Wings' future. She has no idea what her team is going to look like. Nobody does. There are too many players hitting free agency, too many variables with the expansion draft, too many unknowns about the salary cap structure under a new CBA. The Wings have the #1 pick in the draft, they have a new head coach in Jose Fernandez, and they have absolutely no clarity about which players will be on the roster when the season starts. If it starts, and Dallas isn't unique in this situation, every team in the league is in roster limbo right now. The Indiana Fever, coming off a playoff appearance driven by Caitlin Clark's historic rookie season, could see major roster changes depending on how the new CBA structures salaries and the cap. Teams that were building toward contention have no idea if their core will stay intact. Front offices can't make decisions. Coaches can't plan. Players can't commit to training regimens or overseas contracts because nobody knows what's happening. This is the chaos that happens when a CBA negotiation goes down to the wire, and it reveals something important about the WNBA Players Association's strategy, or lack thereof. When you have players like Paige Bueckers publicly saying one thing, and players like Natasha Cloud saying something completely different, that's not a union speaking with one voice. That's a fractured group without a clear consensus on priorities. Effective union negotiations require solidarity. Everyone has to be on the same page about what's negotiable and what isn't, about what they're willing to compromise on, and what represents a deal breaker. But the WNBA players don't appear to have that unity right now. Some understand the precarious nature of the league's momentum and are willing to be flexible to keep things moving. Others are taking hardline positions, treating this like they have all the leverage in the world. The reality is somewhere in between. Yes, the league had a breakthrough year. Yes, ratings were up significantly. Yes, there's more mainstream interest than ever before. But the WNBA still loses money. It's still subsidized by the NBA. It still relies on the goodwill of owners who could theoretically walk away if the economics don't improve. That's not a doomsday scenario. That's just reality. And reality requires compromise from both sides. Here's what makes this situation so frustrating for everyone involved. Both sides know they need each other. The owners need the players because without them, there's no product to sell, no games to broadcast, no momentum to capitalize on. The players need the owners because without them, there's no league, no salaries, no platform to showcase their talents. It's a mutually dependent relationship, which means a deal has to get done eventually. The question is whether they're going to figure that out before March 10th or after they've already damaged the league by missing the 2025 season. The smart money says they figure it out at the 11th hour. That's how these negotiations always go. Both sides posture. Both sides draw lines in the sand. Both sides act like they're willing to blow everything up over their principles. And then when the deadline is actually staring them in the face, when the consequences become real instead of theoretical, they find a way to compromise. It happens in the NBA, it happens in the NFL, it happens in every major sports league, when labor deals expire. But the WNBA isn't like those other leagues. It doesn't have the financial cushion to weather a work stoppage. It doesn't have the generational fan loyalty that keeps people coming back no matter what. It finally, after 30 years, has momentum. And momentum is the most fragile thing in sports. Once you lose it, you might never get it back. So when Paige Bueckers says there will be a season, when she says they're going to figure it out because everybody wants to capitalize on momentum, she's not just being optimistic, she's identifying the fundamental truth that should be driving these negotiations. The window is open right now, the opportunity is right in front of them. And if they let that opportunity slip away because of a labor dispute, they might be looking back in 5 years wondering what could have been. The question is whether enough players share that perspective. Whether the Natasha Clouds of the world, the ones drawing hard lines and refusing to compromise, will recognize that sometimes you have to take a good deal instead of holding out for a perfect one. Whether the union leadership can bring everyone together around a realistic set of demands that gets a deal done instead of fracturing into competing factions with incompatible positions. March 10th is coming. The clock is ticking, and every day without a deal makes the situation more precarious. Paige Bueckers thinks they'll figure it out. The league's future depends on her being right, because if she's wrong, if the players and owners can't find common ground before that deadline, the WNBA might be looking at more than just a lost season. It might be looking at a lost generation of fans who finally started paying attention in 2024 and won't be there when the league comes back. And that's a risk neither side should be willing to take. So yeah, there will probably be a season. The stakes are too high for there not to be. But the fact that we're even having this conversation 3 weeks before the deadline tells you everything you need to know about how dysfunctional these negotiations have become. Both sides better hope that Paige Bueckers' optimism is justified, because the alternative is a disaster nobody can afford.